Hi, and welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce. Lots of stuff this week, so here we go. And we must begin, I'm sure, with the Florida shooting. We won't spend a lot of time on it. I mean, it is horrible, and it's tragic, and we've seen it before. We've all heard offering our thoughts and prayers, and nothing comes of that. I thought this was pretty good, though. And we've also heard before legislation being proposed, nothing comes of it. But this time a couple of unusual things have happened. A former congressman, a Republican congressman, said he hopes the Democrats retake both houses because his party is sick. Also unprecedented, we've seen the New York Post, that's a Rupert Murdoch publication, say, do something. Now all the talking heads, except on Fox, say let's do something. What's really strange, overwhelmingly most Americans want some reasonable firearms control. Even most Republicans want reasonable legislation. But nothing beyond rhetoric ever is done. I agree with something he who must not be named said this week, which that's kind of rare. He said in the wake of the shooting, no one should feel unsafe in any school in America. Well, you know, I can agree with him, perhaps for the first time, but it's still just rhetoric. And why should this time be different? This wasn't as bad as the Paris shooting in South Carolina in terms of motivation. It wasn't as bad in terms of numbers as Virginia Tech or the Las Vegas shootings. But, you know, if the shooting of the first graders at the Sandy Hook Elementary School didn't provoke any action, why would this? The Republicans in Congress are held in thrall by the NRA. And it should be said that the majority of NRA members are in favor of some reasonable gun control. But the NRA doesn't care what its members want. It cares what gun manufacturers want. And they are helped along by the right-wing nutjobs, Prime Nutter, Alex Jones, scum of the scum, had the audacity after the Sandy Hook shooting to say that was faked, that the people crying there were paid actors. Why would he say that? What would the motivation be? Because then the Obama administration could use that as an excuse to confiscate everyone's guns, which is horse droppings. But, you know, there you go. These nutters are dangerous. Another one of them, Josh Goldstein, who can't even write or speak grammatically, but still calls himself a journalist. He said he hopes the president starts a war with Korea in maybe September or October because that would get Congress to stay Republican. Nut jobs. Yeah, it's free speech, and he has the right to say that, but exercising free speech also reveals one's shortcomings. And this isn't directly about the Florida shooting, but it is related to the so-called gun confiscation. Gun dealers all over America in the months leading up to the 2016 presidential election ordered lots of guns. They really beefed up their inventory. Why? Because they expected Hillary to win, and then they'd sell the premise that they're coming to get your guns. Buy the guns now before they're banned. And of course, Hillary didn't win, so they couldn't use that. And as a consequence, gun shops had way too many guns. They had huge inventories and they stopped ordering guns. One result, Remington announced bankruptcy in one of its divisions this week. A pox on all their houses. All right, I learned something this week, which that makes it sound like a unique event. It's not, I hope. I'm always trying to learn something, but this was weird. It made no sense, and then it did. Here's what happened. A friend called me. This wacky thing happened to him, and he wanted to know if I had any insight or experience with it because it made no sense. And after he explained it, I agreed. It made no sense. He'd ordered some kitchen accessories from Amazon. They showed up. But what made it weird was it was in a Walmart box. So I thought, well, maybe the vendor, Tronics in this case, maybe, I can talk, maybe they merely repurposed the box. But the shipping label inside, it revealed that it was shipped from Walmart. So how could my friend order something from an Amazon vendor and have it arrive from Walmart? We tossed out lots of ideas, could come up with nothing logical. So I started to do some research. I wanted to see about this. Turns out there's a thing called retail arbitrage. If I wanted to do that, I would present as an Amazon vendor. And I would know the price of specific things from Walmart or Sam's Club or wherever. And I would price it a few dollars more. And building in the equation, shipping and a profit. And then, and Amazon's commission too. And then I turn around, you buy it, I order it from Walmart using your address as the ship to, and voila, instant profit. I didn't need any space. I didn't have to invest in any inventory up front. Maybe it's not a large profit, but if I do that 50 times a day and make $3 or $4 on each, it's $150 or so. And I don't know if it's hard or easy to do. Is 50 achievable? What if I have good software or a bot? Maybe I can churn out 100 of these or 800 of these. I don't know. Here's the thing, though. That is specifically against the terms and conditions of being an Amazon vendor. So remember the term retail arbitrage. And one place during this research, it was recommended that if you experience it, you should report it to Amazon. All right, so you've heard of an earworm. Typically you get a song in your head and it sticks there. And that's happened to, I think, probably all of us. If you're happy and clap your hands, and it goes on and on. Sidebar. Years ago, I learned of an almost always works purgative for an earworm. Hum a few bars of Girl from Ipanema. You don't even have to know the words. But it's a combination of the rhythm and the melody and the chord structure, and it almost always gets rid of the original earworm. All right, I digress. Did you hear about the woman who got an eyeworm? She grew up on a ranch in Oregon. She wanted to travel, so she went to Alaska, got a job on a salmon fishing boat, and a couple of weeks into it, her eye got very irritated and it wouldn't stop. And finally, back at port, she used a mirror and she looked in and just saw something, pulled it out, and when it was on her finger, this tiny little thing was moving. So she talked to her family, and they urged her to fly home to Oregon. She set up an appointment, and the doctors couldn't find anything. But then she felt the wiggle and said, right now, look right there. And they did, and they saw the little guy, and they got it out, and they didn't know what it was. They took a few out, actually. They sent it to the CDC in Atlanta, and it was finally identified as a cattle worm. She'd grown up on a ranch, and it moved from a cow through a fly over to her eye. Yuck. Ultimately, they took out, over the course of a couple of weeks, 14 worms. As I said, yuck. Welcome back. Remember, you can write to us at thebrucechannel@yahoo.com. You can watch all of our previous episodes, either our Facebook page or at tinyurl.com/BruceChannel. All right. We lost some folks this week. Yes, if truth be told, we're always losing people. Nearly 2 people die on average every second. 105 deaths a minute on average. And we don't always know them. Sometimes we do. And sometimes, whether it's not friend or family, a lot of us know them anyway. You know, the Jerry Van Dykes, Prince. Well, we lost some folks like that this week. But with 2 of them, I felt a personal, albeit tenuous, connection. Marty Allen died this week. He was a comedian, probably most notably partnered with Steve Rossi as Allen and Rossi. By the way, that billing That flies in the face of tradition. Usually the straight man's name goes first. Abbott and Costello, Martin and Lewis. Anyway, what made Marty Allen memorable, aside from the fact that he was funny, was his hair, especially given the times he had very weird hair. Well, back in the day, when I was touring with a show group, we were playing at a hotel. Also on the road that week, staying at the hotel, was the production team of the Mike Douglas Show. Mike Douglas, if you don't know, like Merv Griffin, had a daytime talk show. And the guests would sing or tell jokes or, plug their books. And the Mike Douglas Show, cast, crew, guests, were all staying at the same hotel. So, over the week, we got to visit with a lot of them. The show's bass player, Jim DiGiulio, one of the greatest bass players I've ever seen. He sat in with our guys one night. Robert Conrad was there one night at the bar, and during the break, our guitar player approached him, offered to buy him a drink, and he was so excited. And he called me over. He says, "Look who's here, Robert Conrad. He's one of my biggest fans. I mean, I'm one of his." He said it backwards. And then one night, while we're doing our show, Marty Allen came up on the stage with us. And again, he had that hair. He was instantly recognizable. Danced a little bit. He mugged. And it was fun. And he watched the rest of our show and was very complimentary afterward. And that was my connection to Marty Allen. But I felt a twinge when I learned he died. I felt much more than a twinge when I learned that my most favorite baseball player of all time died this week, Tito Francona. He had the highest batting average in the American League the year he came to the Indians. He batted left-handed, and although I'm a right-handed person, I am a switch hitter today at the plate, and that's directly attributable to my being a fan of his, and I learned to hit left-handed. One of my greatest childhood thrills was this. That's me at the table, and that's him autographing my glove. His son Terry, also known in some quarters as Tito, is today the Cleveland Indians manager, which is way cool. Because one, he's a two-time World Series winning manager, although that was with Boston. And two, he played for 1 year with the Indians. And three, because, well, take a look at this. During Bring Your Kid to the Ballpark Day, there's Tito, second from the right. And then fourth from the right among the kids, that's Terry. 2 years ago, when the Indians were in the World Series, Tito got to throw out the ceremonial first pitch.
Speaking of your dad, can you talk about how proud you must be that he's thrown out the first pitch tomorrow night?
Yeah, I talk all the time about being here in Cleveland. It's about as close to a family feel as you can get in a professional setting. And so it will be family. He's going to, I'm going to walk him out to the mound, or he'll walk me out. And he's going to throw the pitch to Brad Mills, who is as close to family as you can get. So it'll be a very special moment.
Terry Francona's 82-year-old father and former Indians outfielder Tito Francona with his son by his side. They're at the ceremonial first pitch. Now, he told me he wanted to get it right. He went out yesterday and threw 25 practice pitches, guys.
And I'll tell you right now, that was rich. That was just a wonderful moment here. And
yep, that surely had to be an extraordinary moment for both Franconas. Rest in peace, Messrs. Ellen and Francona. Rest in peace. All right, I know the Super Bowl was 2 weeks ago, but just a wee bit more football talk. That was a great Super Bowl, but the NFL is in trouble. Yes, it still reigns supreme in the sports landscape of this country, but there was a study published just a couple of weeks ago showed a major increase from just 4 years ago in the number of parents who would discourage their sons from playing football. Almost half the dads and a majority of the moms. I forget the numbers, but given the new revelations about the accumulative effects on brain trauma, that's what's driving it. Because it's just from 4 years ago, it's up dramatically. And of course, it's not just concussions, it's just the accumulated beating, the trauma. Now, some years ago, I told you I'd heard acclaimed author Malcolm Gladwell speak, and during the Q&A, he was asked about football. Now, he's Canadian-born, but he admitted he loved to watch football. But he nevertheless predicted its demise because, it's one thing, he said, to be 18 or 21 and make up your own mind that it's worth the risk. But more and more parents wouldn't give their permission, which means kids won't be learning to play. And you can't just start at 18, and that's what he said a couple of years ago, and here it's already coming true. I think he predicted maybe 25 years would be over. I thought that was way too soon, but maybe not. Oh, one other note. I noted during the NFL playoffs something I'd never noted before. All of the networks carrying the game, CBS, Fox, NBC, all of the announcers freely mentioned by name the other networks. The guys on CBS would say, an tour like Minnesota and Philadelphia will play for the NFC Championship, and that game will be on Fox. That was always kind of silly. You know, if you were a fan, you knew where the game was, but for years you couldn't talk about the other network. It was verboten to actually say the name. All right, I don't know if you saw this. I'm not a mean kind of guy. I try to be kind, try to forgive. I try to be empathic and understand, so I don't hunt, but I understand that some guys enjoy hunting, and bringing home a duck or a deer, putting food on the table, that's one thing. You know, mankind has been doing that since there's been mankind. But poachers, I must say, there was I had a sense of justice when I saw the story about a poacher of lions, and the poacher got eaten by the lion. I say karma's a bitch, but obviously it's more feline than canine. All right, some quickies before we go. Did you see the Westminster Dog Show? A really strange thing happened. The winner was Flynn, a 5-year-old Bichon Frise. He was named Best in Show. Now, that breed's only won once before, so I guess that makes it a little bit strange. But after he was named the winner, several in the crowd booed. Seriously, booed. That's really weird. Oh, and then I saw that some people were complaining that it was shown on a sports network. Upset because it was shown on a sports network. Who lives the kind of life where you worry about that? We should probably mention the weather. I know some weeks ago we all had a cold spill, at least over here in the east, and it was really cold. And we had, for about a week, lows near the single digits, and that served to cripple the blooms on the winter jasmine. And if it had gone on much longer, it would have killed the season. But then it got milder, and then it got very wet. And then for a couple of weeks, the highs felt like spring. Thursday or Friday this past week, we set a new record. We went to 80. The winter jasmine came back in a riot of yellow, and my daffodils have risen. And on Friday morning, pre-dawn, I was out with the dog, and for the very first time, I heard tree frogs. Yeah, tree frogs. Now, obviously, it's too soon to declare with certainty, but take that, Punxsutawney Phil. Speaking of the cold spell, I forgot to tell you this, but I took a couple of pictures. Katie's, that's the dog, Katie's watering dish sits outside, and on 2 mornings, without any apparent reason, it wasn't particularly windy, the water froze in the bowl in a very weird way. What would cause that? I've never seen or heard of anything like it. All right. Upcoming, not this week, next Monday, the 26th, if you are in L.A., Obamaland, the film I've been talking of for 2 years, because I'm in it, the feature film will be shown at the Hollywood Reel Independent Film Festival at 5 p.m. The first 50 people get in free. So that's the 26th, 5 p.m. I'll remind you next week. Finally, upcoming this week, well, today, it's National Drink Wine Day. Happy to observe that one. Tomorrow, no mail, no banking, it's President's Day. And then Tuesday, the 20th, I cannot tell a lie, it's Cherry Pie Day. Why the 20th? The 22nd, of course, is George Washington's birthday. That used to be the holiday. But it is also National Margarita Day. Yeah. And the last Saturday of the month, the 24th, is Open That Bottle Night. Of course, Valentine's Day was midweek this past week, and it marked the 2nd anniversary of the beginning of a relationship I'm in. 2 years ago, Valentine's Day was Sunday, and it was forecast to be very cold, around 10 degrees, and we had about an inch of snow on the ground. Now, for 3 weeks, this calico cat had been hanging around, and whenever she was, Katie would bark, 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 bark. But the cat stayed outside the fence. Well, that morning, owing to the cold and the snow, I thought, well, wow, what's it going to do? What's it going to eat? And I had no cat food, but I had tuna. So I put a can in a bowl, took it outside in an area she sometimes hung around in, and sure enough, she found it. Watching through the window, the look on her face as she ate that tuna was indescribably heartwarming. Wow. So I began to feed her daily. And she'd wait in the driveway for me as I'd go to the curb for the newspaper. And then she'd come when I'd call, and she'd lay on her back and let me pet her. Yeah, the problem, of course, was Katie. Well, it took several months, but I got it so Katie wouldn't bark at the cat. She'd bark at other cats, but not Beckman. I got them close, kept getting them closer. I let them sniff each other, and in June, we fully integrated the cat into the household, and she's been an indoor cat ever since. Her name is Geraldine Pumpkin Pants. Imagine my surprise. I've always been a dog person, I thought. Turns out I'm more of a cat person than a dog person. I'm actually shocked. Anyway, open the bottle, eat some pie, do all of those things, or just celebrate a la carte. But however you work it out, I hope your upcoming week is the best one you've ever had.